Hey guys, Lord here, back in with another action figure review, and today I'll be taking a look at the Transformers Age of the Primes Deluxe class Autobot Ratchet from the animated universe. This, of course, brought to us by the fine folks over at Hasbro, and if it weren't for Bruticus being a relevant topic in the calendar year 2026, especially the big Mahungahala himself, Onslaught, I think this Ratchet here would have a pretty high chance of getting onto my top figures of the year list, because not for nothing, this animated subline has been firing on all cylinders, at least for me. Granted, Fugitive Waspinator, aka Stinger, and Wreck-Gar were not the best additions. They were easy repaints for Hasbro to pump out, and I get that. You gotta have those in your line to make money for new molds, but Optimus, Bumblebee, Prowl, even Motormaster, who was a repaint of Optimus, were all great. And you know, to his credit, Fugitive Waspinator, since he was a repaint of Bumblebee, which A, makes sense, and B, was a solid mold already, was also decent. Wreck-Gar's really the only kind of sort of stinker in the line, because he is just a reuse of Trashmaster, in which he has too many Ghost Rider spikes going on. I like me some Ghost Rider, but I don't know if animated Wreck-Gar is hardcore enough for that type of thing. But I gotta tell you, animated Ratchet here, you know, not one of my favorite characters, even from the Bayverse, but this figure rocks. I love this figure. This figure's awesome. So with that being said, why don't we cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look, see at all Ratchet has to offer in terms of accessories, because for whatever reason, the past few Transformers I've bought, this guy, Cliff Jumper, Smokescreen not so much, but like the Last Night Barricade, and even that Wreck-Gar and Fugitive Waspinator, they've all had a decent amount of accessories. Like more than 2. It's kind of crazy. Starting off, we have these little magnet-looking things. I am not going to know what any of these tools are called, so feel free to crucify me in the comments, as long as you're funny about it. But you get 2 of those. You get 2 of these little... They look like they snap onto the end of something, but there's nothing for them to really snap onto, so they just peg into the side of his arms or his backpack or his hands. And then we also have, looks to be like some kind of crazy looking, I don't know, plier thing. And then this is definitely a hammer. This is a hammer. I can definitely tell. That said, if we take a closer look at Ratchet here, we can open up his backpack here, and there are a couple of spots for these to snap into if I don't lose them. Tricky to line that up. There we go. And, you know, it's not ridiculously hard to get that out either. That's kind of nice. But you snap that one there. You snap this one on top. Like this. Like this. And then, doesn't look to be any more spots on the inside, but there are definitely spots on the outside that you can snap these pieces into. Like the hammer here, which you can snap right there. You can snap these right here. You might want to point them down so they're less in the way. You know what? I'll flip this around. Hold on. I'll flip these around like so. So there is clearance. And both to sit there. There we go. And then on the sides here, there are 2 more peg holes. So you can snap. This looks like a screwdriver, which that very well could be what it is. You can snap this in here. And you can snap this other piece in over here. And now he's got his backpack loaded up with his tools, and that's freaking cool, man. I love that. And not to mention, he comes with freaking 6 accessories. That's unheard of for like anything outside of Marvel Legends or G.I. Joe with Hasbro. So kudos to them for that. But as far as articulation on Ratchet goes, his big old noggin can look up and down a little bit of tilt, and rotation, of course. Shoulders can go out about this far. They can rotate forward and back. He's got a bicep swivel. Single jointed elbow, you get a lot out of it. Swivel at the wrist. He does have a waist twist. Despite his big old chunky monkey body there, he's got a gut going on, which I think is kind of hilarious, but that is how Ratchet was built in the show. His hips will kick out, back down, forward and back. He's got a thigh cut, single jointed knee. Then he has an ankle rocker with no real foot articulation outside of that, but he doesn't really need it. I will say, other than his legs being hollow from the back, which it's not even like that much, it's like a reasonable amount of hollowness. I don't think these... It would have been nice if the wheels could fold up. Kind of hide some of that, but I get why they don't. But other than that, he is freaking awesome. He looks great. He looks like how he's supposed to look for the most part. I mean, again, these do take some creative liberties, but he definitely fits in with the rest of the animated crew, which, can we please get Bulkhead, like, within the next year or two? Because that would suck to leave us hanging for, like, months and months and months and months, almost years, for one character. Then again, how long did it take him to finish the Jim Lee X-Men? How long did it take him to complete the Fantastic Four? I know I'm talking about Marvel Legends, but still, unless it's a combiner for Transformers, Hasbro takes their sweet arse time completing teams, and it sucks. That said, I just recently found out that Derek J. Wyatt, who was the art director for Benton Omniverse, was also behind Transformers Animated and the OG Teen Titans show, you know, the one everyone likes. And I think something else, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. And you know what? I wasn't big on Benton Omniverse. I've been on a big Ben 10 kick. We just got done looking at a bunch of the reboot figures a week or two ago. But after finding out what else that dude has worked on, I have a lot more respect for Omniverse now and want to check it out. So if anyone knows where to watch that, let me know. That said, if you want to watch Transformers Animated, or Prime for that matter, almost any Transformers really, you can watch them on Tubi, I believe, for free, with ads of course. That said, before we wrap this up, why don't we bring in our two regulars? We got the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulith right here, and the infamous 11th Spawn, as usual, towers over everyone. So, with that being said, it's time now that we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and once again, I'm going to have to stand by my previous statement in saying that good old animated Ratchet here is by far the best of the Deluxe class offerings I've taken a look at from the Age of the Primes line. At least as far as like animated stuff or Prime Universe stuff goes this year. Because let's face it, Bruticus is probably going to straight dominate and be the one I put on my top figures of the year list. But as far as picking a favorite for the other guys goes, I think Ratchet is that guy. He is pretty close to the source material, comes with a ton of accessories, super fun to mess around with, and looks great with the rest of the animated team, which again, hope we get a Bulkhead so we can round that out. I mean, We're literally missing one guy at this point, unless they decide to expand the team and delve into some of the later additions like Sentinel Prime with his big arse chin. But with that being said, before we wrap this sucker up, why don't we get good old Ratchet here transformed and take a closer look at his vehicle mode. And as promised, here we have good old Ratchet in his ambulance mode. And of the 3 Age of the Primes Deluxes I've looked at over the past few days, I think this guy has the best alt mode of the 3. First and foremost, you can store all these weapons on his person. You got these 2 on the side here. You got the 2 on the top. And then my personal favorite thing that this figure does is he stores weapons on the inside. I don't have a lot of Transformers that do that, so that's a nice touch. On top of the fact that in true Transformers fashion, he can roll. Whee! Whee! My only gripe with this guy, it feels like he should have a little bit more in the front here, but there is like nothing missing, so I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, looks like animated Ratchet to the T. The animated line is just firing on all cylinders, at least for me. You know, there was Wreck-Gar, but I didn't hate him as much as the rest of the community. Which, not for nothing, I don't think he's like excruciatingly hated. It's just, could have been better. But Ratchet, Prime, Prowl, Bumblebee, all of them, solid. I hope we get a Bulkhead to round out the team. That would be nice. I hope we get some Decepticons. There's a Lugnut rumored to come out. And I would also like to see another crack at Lockdown. This time a little bit more animated accurate. So, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, catch you guys later.